My name is Rajiv Khanna, and I'm the Managing Director of a training provider based in the UK called Raj Khanna Associates Limited. We've done a couple of presentations for APMG International on the principles of Agile, project management, and Scrum Master. And recently, we were asked by Ellie Bowett, who's the regional lead for APMG International, to put together something as a small video that we feel will be helpful to colleagues to watch at their own convenience. And on the 25th of March, there's an article in the National Health Service Journal by a gentleman called Roy Lilly about this thing called MoSCoW. Although our colleagues may have seen MoSCoW written in that way. So what we thought we would do is to put the two things together and explain to you what does MoSCoW actually mean, but most significantly, how can that apply to our everyday life, especially as some of the restrictions we have in the world today. So Agile project management, as some of you may be aware, has 8 guiding principles. And one of the most crucial ones within Agile is deliver on time. So whatever solution we are delivering, we should deliver to time. So how does that work when time is an unknown? In traditional project management methodologies, as you will see, we have a term called features, which we would suggest an easier term maybe to understand is scope. So scope is what is included and what is excluded. So when you are asked to deliver a solution, it is essential that we understand the scope, and especially the areas where there may be an assumption. So if you're having a party and you would like to invite some guests, then of course there is an assumption there will be some drinks. But if drinks are not included, then it's essential we say to people, this is what the party includes and this is what the party doesn't include. So we talk about the scope. And in traditional project methodologies, as you see, the scope is fixed. So we need to deliver everything that is being asked of us. As a result, time is variable. And similarly, cost is variable because we cannot predict the future. And we'll try and use a small example to demonstrate this for you. So when our senior management team say, in the business case, during foundation, you said this was going to cost £10,000 and it's going to be 6 months. Therefore, if we have to deliver everything that is on the list, it may be £11,000. It may be 7 months. And classically, people say, the project has failed because you did not get your figures right. Well, unfortunately, as mentioned earlier, we cannot predict the future. So as long as we work on the premises that the scope is going to be fixed, time and cost are likely to be either higher or even lower. We don't know. If you look at Agile or Dynamic Systems Development Method, which is the ABC Alliance, actually reverses the triangle. Now you see time is fixed and cost is fixed. The scope, the features, is actually variable, which suggests that it's likely we won't be able to deliver 100%. Because we have to deliver what we can in 6 months. at a cost of £10,000. So how would this work in practice? A small example we'd like to share with you is this concept of going shopping. As we know today, there are issues with the amount of food that we can buy. The supermarkets are saying, we have lots of food, but only buy what you need. So we're going to use that as an example of applying this thing called MoSCoW prioritization to going shopping. So we put together a shopping list, as you see, that has our standard items like milk, bread, jam, butter, etc. So if you were to go shopping today and you leave home at 1 o'clock and you spend £30 doing your shop, having done that, you have the experience and you know how long it's taken you, how much money you've spent. What I'd like to challenge you is, if either tomorrow or next week on exactly the same day at exactly the same time, I ask you to go to exactly the same supermarket to buy exactly the 10 items. Would you be able to guarantee me that you will definitely be back in an hour and you would have only spent £30 in your shopping? Well, if you can't, then how can we predict those figures when we are delivering solutions in our organizations? So how would this work, as we said earlier, in practice? So before we do that, we'd like to talk about what does MoSCoW actually stand for. So as we've written MoSCoW, not in the classical Royal Lily word, but I showed you earlier, MoSCoW is generally presented in that way. So what does M, which is must have, actually stand for? These are the items that we have to deliver. Without it, the solution will not work. It will not be legal without it. And as we said, it will not be viable. So these are the items that we say are must. So in your requirements list, when we are asking somebody to do something, consider which items are must. And there's a suggestion that we should really think about 60% of the total items as a maximum number of musts. Should and could actually have a workaround. So you see, we can work around them. The difference is the items that are should, the workaround is extremely difficult for the business. Whereas the could have is not so difficult. So look at the items that you have on the list. Consider what is should and what is could. And W stands for won't have for now. Traditionally, in organizations, we make a list and we say everything is a must. And then we start to go down the list and decide which ones are should, which ones are could, and which ones are we won't have for now. On the other hand, some of the more mature organizations actually start with a list that says you won't have for now. So everything you've got on your list, you are not going to have. That's the starting point. And then we ask you to work upwards and convince the senior managers, the decision makers, as to why something is a must. And if we can do that, then we do believe we would start to do things differently. So in summary, what I'd like you to think about in this, it's not a different skill set, It's a different mindset. How are we starting to think about these items? So going back to our situation, we were talking about shopping. We had a shopping list. So let's consider the items that are must, should and could, or won't have for now. Before we move into it, some of you may have seen this movie. If not, please watch it. It's one of my favorite. Nanny McPhee. There are two movies by Nanny McPhee. And it's this concept of what do we want rather than what do we actually need. So Nanny McPhee's quote is, when you need me, it's a must, but you no longer want me, then I must stay. However, if you want me, but no longer need me, then I have to go. So consider the items that are on your list. What is a must? What is a should? And how does that apply to whatever solution you are delivering or any other work that you are performing? So we talk about our shopping as we head in here. Consider these items, and I'd like you to think about this, and hopefully we'll come up with the same kind of an approach. 10 items. Time is fixed. You have to be back in an hour, or alternatively, the supermarkets these days have said you will only be allowed in the supermarket for a particular period of time, and then you must leave. So when you take your shopping list to the supermarket, consider these items. So just for our personal preference, if you like bread, you say bread is a must and milk is a must. What about butter? You see, butter we've identified as should. So can you eat toast without butter? Yes, you can. But it's a little bit dry, it's a little bit difficult. So that takes the position of a should, that we do have a workaround, but that workaround is difficult. On the other hand, things like jam and honey, we've said are could, because without them, you can eat toast with having butter on it, but you don't need to have honey and jam because again, you've got a workaround and the workaround is not so difficult. Being Indian, of course, I like my pakoras and samosas and I put them both down as should. But of course, you may not consider that. And as you see on this list, I put nothing down as won't have for now. Maximum numbers, so we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we only have 40% of items that are must. So we hope you have been able to understand what Roy Lilly was referring to when he talked about this word called MoSCoW. Must, should, could, won't have for now. And hopefully, using what we are currently trying to do is the supermarkets have lots of items, but only buy items that are must and then should. So if time is running out or money is running out, as long as we can deliver all the items that are must, then we should see that as a successful project. An article I read recently when somebody said, we did not get what we asked for. However, we got more than what we hoped for. So that's how we need to start considering on whatever we are trying to achieve. So going back to Roy Lilly's articles, what he refers to as look at what is happening within your organization. So for example, if we are at a meeting, What are the agenda items that we must cover? You see, meetings, they'll either extend the meeting by an hour, 2 hours to cover every agenda item, or they will rush through every single agenda item without actually spending the right amount of time on the items that are significant. So at the start of your meeting, MoSCoW prioritize those items. So the word you would also come across, apart from MoSCoW prioritization, is something called a prioritized, pardon my spelling, prioritize requirements list. And that's really the term we should refer to. So go to the agenda item at the start of the meeting and say, what is must? Go through the top and ensure all the items that are must are covered, then the should, and then if you don't have time to do the coulds, then absolutely not a problem. Similarly, you see the police, when they're investigating crime. Right now, the police are under tremendous pressure with the restrictions. They're not going to have time to investigate every single crime. So we need to think about MoSCoW prioritization. The important thing is this prioritization is not done by somebody who's delivering the solution. It is somebody who is part of the business that is running that department. Only they should be MoSCoW prioritization. So if you are doing shopping for somebody else, then it's that somebody else that will tell you what is must, should, could, etc. Decision making. Talk to the members in the room. Talk to the different groups and say, okay guys, what it is. And the chair will then have to decide, because the chair is ultimately responsible for that meeting. The police. Talk to the government, the Home Secretary. Talk to the general public, the council, and ask them, what do they believe it's a priority for them? Not the police, it should be the general public. Similarly, which projects need to be delivered? Which of those can be put aside? The pressure that all the health service is on, we need to prioritize the treatments. It sometimes gets extremely difficult, but we need to start thinking that if time is fixed, which we're saying it should be, and costs are fixed, then something has to give way. And that something is our prioritized requirements list. We cannot be taking as long as it takes to deliver everything. So as we said, we hope you now have a good understanding of what is MoSCoW prioritization. I hope you're able to apply the principles of MoSCoW prioritization to some of the events that are taking place at work or at home. Similarly, which relatives that you must see, should see, could see. So we are doing it probably subconsciously, I would say. Here we're asking you to do it more in a structured way. So we hope this short video presentation on MoSCoW prioritization has addressed what Ellie was asking us to do, and hope you found it useful. So our suggestion, our thoughts are, please look after yourself, your colleagues and friends, and the people who are looking after us, i.e. the public sector organizations. We thank you for listening, and if there are any suggestions or queries on some other types of videos you might be interested in, then please either contact APMG International at their UK office, India office, or they have other offices around the world. But of course, we would love to hear from you through our website or our Twitter or LinkedIn account. We wish you all the very best and look forward to hearing from you in the near future.